All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the Thursday Night Football Showdown show here on the Mayo Media Network. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe on the way in. Got my guy Hoop, got my guy Title here with me as always. Going to break down what our guy Kenny, shout out to Kenny, huge week last week, is touting as the slate of the century. We got Lil Jordan Humphrey. We got Bub Means Business, as people were talking about. We got lots of good dudes to talk about on the slate. Going to break it all down as usual. Captains, ownership, roster construction, position by position, and we'll end it with some FanDuel. Hoop, bring you in first. Actually, before I bring you in, I'm bringing in our guy Tweezy, getting in here at 10:40 in the morning his time. So shout out Tweezy. What's going on, Hoopster? How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I love that. Love our guy Tweezy. Yeah, doing well. I mean, in terms of this game first, like shit show game slate. They've been pretty good. Like even the crappy games, there's been. They've been solid. This is the first one you look at and literally like throw up in your mouth. I know that people are going to be in here. Oh, I love this game. I'm so pumped for it. Sure, that's fine. Like if that's your thing, cool. But for me, it's like, man, this is nasty. This is ugly. And it's honestly a slate where anything could happen. Like the defense captain stuff, the kicker captain stuff, I wouldn't be surprised. Massive amount of money left on the table, backup quarterback sort of game. Like I could see anything happening tonight, but we'll do what we do. We'll talk through it. And every time I have this feeling though, and then we start talking through it, I'm like, all right, I start to feel a little more confident, a little bit better about the slate. So I am excited to go in, talk through it, and maybe at the end of the show have a little bit of a different demeanor potentially. We'll
see how that goes. I'd like for that to happen too. It's not that I'm against the slate. When you have an ugly one like this, it can actually be really good for showdown. And again, I always tell you at the top of the show, I think it's a great showdown slate because we can get a unique up top. There's tons of different things that you can do to get different. I'll talk later when we get to the captains, sort of like what we had the other night, maybe a way we could handle it. So lots to talk about. Shout out to our guy Hebrew, big dog NHL. I'm rocking NHL hats now, Hebrew, just for you, buddy, but just because the 100K win, he pops in. NHL's been on fire, though, over at the Nation, and every sport that comes around, they just doubt it a little bit. Oh, these guys know what they're talking about. Nades just absolutely crushing the content, the matchup sheet, the stone we brought out for this season, the Discord popping off left and right. It's a football show. Title, bring you in. We're going to talk some football, man. What's your first thoughts? How you doing?
First thoughts are the same as yours. I'm doing well. First thoughts is great showdown game because salary doesn't mean anything. You have the most random players of all time playing, a billion injuries. Like offensive side, obviously everyone knows with the Saints, no Pat Surtain. On the Broncos side, they're beat up a little bit on defense. But captain, like, just getting quick into it, Kamara, he could be 35% owned today. I have him projected for over 4 points higher than the next guy, which is Bo Nix. And Bo Nix is going to get a good amount of ownership, maybe 15% in the captain. So pretty much anyone outside of those two gets you pretty different. But then you throw it back, kind of what we said about Josh Allen's slate. You can play 150 Kamara teams and still get way different, get unique in plenty of those teams because of the plethora of options at the receiving side on both of these teams with so many injuries, and salary is pretty much irrelevant. So you build a team and you leave 5K on the table. That is totally fine on a slate like this. But yeah, shout out Rio for the massive hit. Shout out Kenny for the massive hit. My guy Johnny Heft as well. He also shipped the $3 last showdown as well for $3,300. So shout out to you, John.
Yeah, congrats to all those, winning tons out there. Love to see that. This, like I said, too, Hoop, we can go back to you, but the ability just to play a showdown slate and then move on with your night, if you need to get those brownie points, whatever it might be, anything you want to do, you can also do that. If you don't want to watch it, to me, the big thing is like, even if this game was 31-27 and it turns out to be phenomenal, I'll have it in the background. Who am I kidding? But just to say it, it wouldn't kill me. It's like two teams that I don't care as much about, but I love it for showdown. Do you have any other thoughts before we hop into the captain spot?
Started looking through some of these price tags and it gets even worse. Like, I mean, Cortland Sutton and pricing. I should preface this by saying, like, you guys both know, like, pricing doesn't matter. Like, the salaries don't matter on this slate whatsoever, but like they do a little bit. Like Cortland Sutton at 10.8, Like, that is beyond gross. Juwan Johnson, 6,800 for Juwan Johnson. Man, you start looking through this stuff and it gets gross. But again, people don't like building gross DFS lineups. So maybe that's where we kind of find our advantage tonight, is like just embracing the grossness. And we'll see when we break it all down. But yeah, like the main thing for sure, you look at captain, and a lot of people are obviously going to go Kamara. They're going to anticipate a lot of dump offs. They have no other pass catchers going a lot. I'm going to take one more step back. Think about week 2 of the NFL season, right? It was after week 2, and everyone is saying the Saints offense, best offense in the NFL, right? I mean, they were going off week 1, week 2, most efficient offense, and look where we are at now. And I know injuries are a part of it. It is a shame with a lot of this stuff. Like, we've been talking the Shaheed stuff all season, like on the main slates, whatever slate he's on, like he was like their guy, and now he's potentially going to the IR. I don't know if they officially put him on the injured reserve. But man, like I really feel for a guy like him. So I'm kind of all over the place. I'm going to bring it all back to the captain conversation. We know Kamara is going to be very popular up there. It's going to be the reason he's so popular is because it's going to be so easy to play him up there. He's 11-8 and he's 17-7 in the captain. We have so many cheap options tonight. You just go and I did do a dry run, so we can bring that up at any point. Like, it's just going to be easy to get his ass in there because of all the cheap guys that it will play him with. Radler's obviously going to get some ownership up there. Showed a little bit of running upside, but Bo Nix is definitely the number 2. Again, easy to fit him in. The salary doesn't matter. He's 9,400 in the captain. He's 14-1. And then after that, it should kind of get spread out a little bit. Like, the thing is, if you just go into an optimizer and run it, you're going to get some Cortland Sutton up there. You're going to get some Javonte Williams up there. To me, for me personally, I haven't built teams yet. It's either going to end up being a very consolidated captain pool where I'm only maybe playing like 3, potentially 4, or I think I might go the other route where I just play a shit ton of them. So I haven't fully decided what I'm going to do. Obviously, all my content will be updated usually pretty shortly after we get off the air here over at SHIPITNation.com. But man, you could see a lot of things. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we get our first like defense that you absolutely need on the slate, captain kicker, like anything random could happen today. So I'm going one of 2 paths tonight, and I'm not 100% sure which way I'm going to go, but I know it's going to be Kamara, it's going to be Nix, and then probably Radler, the 3 that get a large majority of the ownership. And Kamara is probably in a tier of his own. It's probably him, and then a big gap, and then it's Bo Nix, then a little gap down to Radler.
Yeah, Kamara's going to just keep going up in ownership as the slate goes, as we get closer and closer to the slate, just because the spot, everything's going to jam him in. You could play him anyway, even if you capped at 49K tonight to try and get different that way. I mean, I'm fine with that, and you could do that, and you would still end up with a bunch of Kamara because there's just so many cheap plays. The other thing, Title, I'll kick it to you, but like the Sutton thing, way overpriced. Not going to put people off him. He still could be 40, 50% in the flex just because you can easily afford him. There's nobody else to really go to. His role to me, though, is it's very secure, but it's a one-game slate. Like, those other guys could just eat him up. They might only throw 1 touchdown the whole game or something, and then that could be to one of the other dudes, and then you don't need Sutton, and that just leaves thousands on the table. So I'll let you talk through captains. Obviously, it makes sense up there, but just give me your thoughts at captain, then we'll move on.
Yeah, I'm going with Hoops. I think he said it first, the condensed captain pool. That's where I'm leaning today because, yes, I mean, you can, if you want to overspend for Juwan Johnson, if you want to play wide receiver 1, Bub Means, Cedric Wilson, Mason Tipton, Devon Valley, like, if you want to play those guys, sure, they're all going to be on the field. It's 37 total, the lower scoring game, the less you need at captain to really get there. If Bub Means catches 1, has a game like he got last week, sure. I don't hate. Maybe I'll have a little Bub Means. But what I'm telling myself is, like you said, you can cap yourself at 49K, even lower, and you will still get a ton of Kamara because all those guys are so cheap. And I just think Kamara is by far in the best spot. Like, the problem with, I'm definitely playing Kamara. He has all the pass catching ability, the dump offs from Rattler. He by far is the highest touchdown prop on the slate, -110. I'll get to the next guy, Javonte Williams at +150. He's going to be another guy I'm keeping in my pool. McLaughlin eats into him a little bit, but again, Bo Nix, the pass attempts was something I found really interesting in this one. 31.5 for Bo Nix, 29.5 for Rattler, which is not good for passing attempts. Both of them are well under 200 yards for their over-under prop passing, but both do have a little rushing upside, which is why I think I'm going to play both at captain. And there's so many pass catchers you can pair them with, which is nice. But 21 yards for Rattler on the ground, 26.5 for Bo Nix shows that, especially someone mentioned on the Saints side, I think this is very true. Broncos good front seven, Saints banged up. Rattler might have to use his legs a little more to escape. So right away, I think it's both quarterbacks for me. It's Kamara, it's Javonte, and then I will overspend for Sutton at the captain spot. 10-8 looks absolutely ridiculous. Maybe he comes in 8-9%, by far wide receiver one in this spot. If he goes for 101, I think that's plenty to get up there. Yeah, Bob Means would be the other one, but I think I'm going to really keep it condensed today. But again, I play like 40 to 60 teams, 30 to 60. I don't play 150. I'd spread it out a little more the more teams I hit.
Yeah, the Bob Means thing is most interesting. Like people talking about Surtain being out. You mentioned it off the top as well, but just the statement there is it's one game. We know they came in, he got all of that, and I'm playing him for sure. That's to say, you want someone like him that has ceiling for a slate like this, single game, all of that, but also like Cedric Wilson right there for $800 less at 1/3 of the ownership or something. I'm mixing that in anytime I can find it. Like if you see it there, no, I shouldn't say anytime I can find it, but I'm willing to mix that in anytime I find something like that. So if I have Bob Means set up at 4K and I'm, maybe spending all the like majority of the salary or most of it, you can just drop down, leave another $800. To me, it's the same. Whatever last game has nothing to do with this game. That's what people need to realize in DFS. We take some of those thoughts, we move them along. It's easy to say it does when it happens. Well, yeah, of course. It happened last game. It's Bob Means again. If that happens, so be it. But I'm just saying you don't have to force it when it's a one-game slate. Same reason the Sutton stuff we talked about. Am I doing it too? 16-2 up top is crazy when you can get Kamara for 17-7. You can get quarterbacks for way less. But you're gonna put some of that in there because he's definitely a leverage spot here across the board. When Nix, Rattler, Kamara, those guys all look to be getting more ownership, you're gonna be able to fit him into the middle and play him. So I like that. I'm not sure how much I'm gonna do with the cheap captains, just because as we always talk about, that'll lead to very popular lineups. Like you put a rare captain up top, lower owned, and then you end up on all four of the same five dudes that everyone's trying to play and a one-off. If that ends up winning, it's just gonna be a bigger train than usual, I think. So I'll look into it and I'll have everything up on the site when we get there. But Bo Nix, Spencer Rattler, the Rattler thing is at least leverage to Kamara. He could still go through Kamara, but when you have Kamara, Williams, I'll talk more on that when we get to running back. Bob Means, Cedric Wilson, Jawan Johnson, Moreau catches touchdowns. Tipton's there. I don't have as much love for him today, but he's there and a guy you could use. So just to say it, Rattler, and then you talked about the rushing upside that he could have. So I think he's interesting for the Saints side. Obviously, Bo Nix, Kamara look much better on paper. Hoop, anything else you want to add at the captain spot? If not, you can elaborate on these quarterbacks.
The only other thing, I think the interesting one is Sutton, because I do think he ends up getting ownership because people are going to realize that they have the salary. If you go in and run teams, you probably just get some because of all the cheap value plays. And I don't know. I mean, I haven't decided what I'm going to do with him up there because people are going to like the quarterbacks. People are going to like Alvin Kamara. And then I just feel like people will default to Sutton as number 4. And still, it's going to be substantially lower. So I get the point of playing him. It's going to be substantially lower than the quarterbacks in Kamara. But I think it's like if he gets like 10% ownership in the captain, to me, that's like that's too much and maybe a spot that I just fade. So it's an interesting talking point for sure. But yeah,
nobody's a must play. Like the chemistry doesn't mean anything. We had Olave leave the game. We had other guys in there. Like that doesn't mean, again, it has nothing to do with this game. This is, if you think that's, and we're also not the show for that. Like I'm not here to tell you the must plays of the night. That's not what this show is, right? We're looking for concepts, theories, process, roster construction, ideas on how you can handle the slate. That guy obviously looks good. That's why he's popular though. Like he's literally the most popular wide receiver outside of Sutton, I think, is the only other guy that's going to get more ownership than him. So that tells you all you need to know. We're looking for other ways. I like, Landon brought it up. Franklin, Devon, I don't even know how you say his name. Vele, whatever the hell his last name is, that guy, he was definitely been involved the games that he was in, right? The first game of the season, I think he caught 8 for 8. Again, has nothing to do with tonight, but at least he was in the mix before some of this other stuff. And then Hoops Guy, the chat's been talking about it all day, the little Jordan Humphrey revenge game here. If you want to go up with that, the Sean Payton revenge game, Vile, my guy Landon got me. Like those are the types of guys. Lucas Krull, if he's in there, you get in on the action there. There's lots of guys that you could play. Tight end, wide receiver. to get different in your flex spots. It just depends on what you want to do up top with the captain. Go ahead, Hoop. You got something else?
The quarterbacks, like, not much more to add. Like, I mean, it could just very well be a raw point slate, and a raw point slate, I just want the guys that are going to have the ball in their hands the most, and that's Nix and Rattler. Nix will obviously be, I mean, Nix is going to be very, very highly owned. I mean, a quarterback that's been producing, team is favored. And then Rattler at 92, a little bit of rushing upside. I mean, I want, as much of those guys as possible. It's nothing too crazy to say, to be honest, at the quarterback position. Both captain eligible, both, flex eligible, and definitely want a lot.
Yeah, Scary, you're my boy. You bring up the best points. That's why I bring you up all the time. It's not against you. You bring up good points, and I like to talk about them, but I do this in our Discord all the time at SHIPIT Nation. It's not at the person. It's when someone brings it up, I like to respond for all, because I think everybody reads it and thinks one way. We're trying to use that to frame up other things that we're talking about and other angles on the slate. The other thing was, I just saw it here. What was I thinking about? Oh, title. I want to go to you. If you can add on the quarterbacks if you want. I think we spent a lot on them, but go to the key is running back here. This is the same team that Bucky and Sean Tucker just ran all over. This is the matchup, but obviously you mentioned a little off the top when you've got Javonte, Jaleel. So, I mean, you could even tie this into the captain before we move on, because we didn't spend a lot on them, but Bo Nix is eating up some of Javonte's rush attempts. Jaleel McLaughlin's cutting into it a little bit. They have this guy Estime that they've been talking about a bunch, and he's $400 and 600 up top. I mean, it's tough to go there, but this is a team that just got run all over. So you can cancel out the captain conversation if you want, because you moved on, or you can go to running backs with that conversation. But I think that's at least something to talk about here going up against the Saints.
Yeah, it definitely is a good point. Like, I'm going to be playing some Javonte at captain. I'm not sure it's the slate. I want to go Jaleel. I mean, you're talking leverage. You get all the leverage. Javonte, Bo Nix, some people go Sutton, like Kamara. If Jaleel gets there, they're probably pounding the football like the Bucs did, taking the air out and limiting time of possession on the Saints side. So if you really got some big balls or something, you can do it. I'm not going to go Jaleel in captain. I like him a lot in the flex, though. I like Javonte in the captain. I like Javonte a lot in the flex. The interesting stuff, like after that, I'm not going to really get to estimate. I'm not, I think, going to get to Jamal or Keandre Miller, just because 36 and 24, that's where all these receivers that are priced at that are going to be on the field a ton. So I'm going to bank on Kamara having a great game. Again, if an injury happens, if we saw with like the James Cook stuff, Ray Davis got all the work. Obviously, he was out pregame. If something happened to Kamara, if they do, I don't want to take all your steam or all your thoughts, Tambo, because you said some pre-show.
I got to stop talking pre-show now. These guys are thunder.
I know. I won't even go to that. But you mentioned, all right, I'll just say quick. You mentioned Kamara maybe being used as more of a receiver. If that was the case, Jamal, Keandre Miller will be up. Could he be used as a running back? Again, I'll let you talk more on that. I'm not really going to be playing those guys because all those receivers are priced around there, and I'm going to bank on Kamara mixing in the receivers. I do really like Jaleel in the captain, though, for the Broncos, and I really like Javonte today as well.
Yeah, Hoop, you got it up there. It's our guy, Teacher Derek, man. Yeah. Derek the teacher. He says when they work independently, but he puts them to work independently. That's
love it. And what this love seeing this comment. It's great, and it ties into one quick little story. And a shout out for sure to if he's watching, Mr. Reed, my daughter's substitute teacher. So he had a sub last week, and the guy said he's a big fan of the show, watches all the time, and big supporter of SHIPIT Nation. So talk about, like, as a kid having like the inside track with the sub. So I wanted to give Mr. Reed a shout out for sure.
That's cool.
That's amazing. Shout out to Mr. Reed. Love to see that. He hops in the class, and he's got a story to tell right away about old Hoopster and the crew. So love that. I guess shout out to Ricky here, back at practice this week too. A Wednesday came back, so shout out to Ricky. But Javonte captain with Broncos D, certainly interesting from everything that we talked about. Just a way to flip it, because that's super leverage on the Kamara captain at 35%. So I definitely like that call. I think that was interesting. I think it's what is it, like 4 touches ever on the season, or forever in the NFL for Estime? I think he's gone for 27 yards across 4. So that's just
Lil Jordan Humphrey that you're talking about.
Yeah.
You can't wait to talk about Lil Jordan.
But all I was saying, I'm teasing title. Obviously, we always talk, and we're trying to break this stuff down and get ideas and come in with good concepts and stuff like we mentioned. But just one thing I read this morning that I thought made a little bit of sense is while we all discuss where we're about to go next with Bub Means and Cedric Wilson, Tipton, undrafted rookie, all this stuff. Like, I like see me and SC lining up now with Moreau when we get there later. He catches touchdowns for real. And, no Taysom, Jawan's there, but I get it and can leave some money. But I will say there is a scenario with Kendre Miller is back, right? Where I'm not vouching for him as much as if they're good with that they can run Jamal Williams more. So Williams in the flex, certainly. You can play Williams with Kamara because he's just the same. It could be the same thing. Kamara got like 8 checkdowns last game. Again, has nothing to do with this one, but just to note it, they may want to use him a bit more that way. And obviously that makes him super valuable if that's the case, and hence why we see him so popular at the captain. But I wouldn't be afraid to put Jamal Williams into the flex with him because most people aren't going to do that. Even if they don't rule it out, meaning they set a rule to break that up, I don't think they will. I still don't think they're going to get enough of it. And I definitely think that could be a thing where it's Kamara catching more balls, getting, 8 for 80, 50 on the ground and a touchdown. And then Jamal Williams still gets some and gets a touchdown on the goal line or something like that. And he ends up being valuable at 3,600 because he's still useful, or even later in a game if the Broncos are up and they use him instead. Like, there's just other ways that he can get in the mix. So I do have interest in him there. And the other side I talk about, I will have a little estimate at $400 just because Michael just asked this after I said it. I agree. Yeah. Like for me, I'm risking that. It's $400 on this slate. You're already risking so much anyway. Why would I not add a little bit more risk? Only in the flex though, of course. And then I liked the Javonte up top call. So Hoop, I'll let you talk about running backs now.
It'll be very simple for me. I mean, Kamara, Javonte Williams, and I'm fairly certain I'll either be fading or way underweight on the rest. Like, I just want to take my chances with all the wide receivers and pass catchers. We know that there's a big void, both sides really, with pass catchers. Like, I'll take my chances there. And a lot of these guys are similarly priced to pass catchers that I want. So a lot of Kamara, as much as I can get, as much Javonte Williams as I can get. And then to me, the rest of these guys, I don't have much interest in really at all. Like McLaughlin, Miller, Williams, Estime, I'll probably fade a lot of them, like I said, or be way, way underweight.
Yeah. I like a little bit too tonight. Like the chat was talking a little bit about this. I saw this one here, a couple different ways. Yeah. Just on the Kamara thing. And then we'll move on to wide receiver, but he's definitely a guy, Beetle Bain, that fits the 1-5. The setup there is just, he does all the work for the Saints side and then you fill it out. The tough part is picking the 5 guys on the Broncos side. I know you'll get Nix and Sutton and whatever else in there, but after that, it gets tricky, certainly probably leaving some money in that scenario as well. And then Don had talked about fading Kamara. I think tonight building in sets where you just X Kamara out of captain and flex and just see what you get. See if you like some of those lineups. We had this whole conversation in our Discord the other day about building 20 lineups for Showdown. Do it with Kamara X'd out in the flex and in the captain and just see what you get. If there's something you like within that pool or that set, run it. I think Kamara should be in your lineups tonight. He's going to be 95% owned or something across both, so I get it. But, essentially the point would be just to see. If you find something you like, don't be afraid to run it as 2 of your 20 or something and just roll it that way, or 3. And if you want to go all in on the fade, then by all means do you. That's up to you.
Yeah, you got to build like 23 to 3 win for the Broncos, right? I mean, build your teams with that assumption that the Saints can't get anything going at all. And we've seen games where even though we think Kamara has a high floor, where the Saints can't do anything, and he has 7 or 8 fantasy points. That's what you're banking on. And now the issue here tonight is like his realistic floor, even in a blowout, is probably 11, 12, which on the slate is probably good enough to be in optimal.
That's the key. I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, that's a great point to put across, is like people could sit here and say, oh, I can see where it's a bad night for Kamara and he just gets you 5 for 60 and 35 on the ground. But you're like, wait a minute, that's actually a pretty damn good score. Now, maybe he's not a captain.
What was it?
He's in the mix.
Captain
Bengals
2 weeks ago, right? When he got 11 and it was on optimal, right? Yeah, was it? It was.
No, I thought you were talking about the Bengals slate was really low scoring too, and it was a bunch of 12s, 13s where they didn't get there, but they got there because it was way under the total.
What the hell game was that? Because it cost me $125,000 when he had a bullshit catch on the last drive. It was
the Buccaneers game.
Yeah, he had whoever they just recently played on Showdown. It was like Buccaneers. 2 weeks ago, and he had 11 fantasy points, and that was inoptimal. whatever that game was. Someone will know.
12.6 for KC, 17.4 on Tampa the last 2 weeks. I don't know which one it was.
The KC. It was the 12 one.
Whatever. I remember it now. He had the catch on the very last drive.
Yeah. So and that score was on optimal. Yeah, it was the KC game. It was Monday night or something. Yeah, that 12.6 was in optimal. 12.6 fantasy points. So that's what you're up against, especially a game like this that could be nasty.
Yeah, and that's why this slate is somewhat interesting, again, for getting different. It's just you only get so many lineups, and within those lineups, you got to plan how you want to play them. And then from that, it's all just trying to find your way to the top. But we're getting it all here, right? 46,000. Shout out to Morse. Could be the winner up top. Kicker captain. We all know how Showdown goes. That's for sure. Like Scary said, it's back to him. Good point. It's tough to outscore the kickers. So lots that you can do here. So I think that's at least somewhat interesting. Hoop, I'll go back to you on these wide receivers. Bub means business. We talked about your boy Lil Jordan, the Sutton, Vile thing. We got on the other side, Cedric Wilson. I already mentioned earlier being $800 cheaper in the flex than Bub as a guy that you could use. So your thoughts at the wide receiver position?
I mean, I want some of all these guys because there's a chance. I mean, who the heck knows? Like who's going to be? Everyone thinks it's Means for the Saints. Yeah, sure it could be, but there's other guys that have a chance to be the main dude. Tipton, Cedric Wilson could get some work here. St. Brown at $200. I have interest in that. So I'm playing all the Saints guys for sure. Means, Tipton, Cedric Wilson, and St. Brown. In terms of like rules, like I don't know, like I probably won't set many rules, to be honest with you. Like I'm just going to play them and see what happens on the Broncos side. Sutton at 10-8, like this is a perfect example with Sutton, like a perfect way, like game theory, roster construction, where you can just get different right away. Build a team with Sutton at 10-8, and then just drop all the way down to, is it Vile, however you pronounce his name? Yeah, Vile or Franklin, and leave 6,000, 7,000. Like those guys could easily outscore Sutton tonight, like easily outscore Sutton. And, people will have those teams for sure where they're leaving the big chunks, but most won't. You even look at the projections. There's not even that big of a gap in the projections between Sutton and some of these other guys. You can do it on the other side too with the Saints dudes. Like build a team with Sutton, because any optimizer, if you just run it, it's going to put Sutton in there because it has the salary to do it. You have the salary to do it, and he's projecting higher than these guys. Yank Sutton's ass out and put anyone else in there, and you're leaving a huge chunk. And it's very realistic that one of these wide receivers outscores Sutton tonight. So I will have Sutton, but honestly, I'll probably take an underweight stance on Sutton tonight. I mean, I just, I don't know. Now he's probably going to absolutely go off, but I want them all. I want Valet, I want Franklin, I want Sutton. And I mean, you guys are going to absolutely shit on me for this. You're going to shit on me for sure. But my least favorite is the guy who I'm not even allowed to talk about any longer on the show. So I'll have some just because I have to. And if he goes off, I have to have exposure to him. But yeah, Will Jordan Humphrey is my least favorite.
So that just means no lapping it when it happens, right? You can't come back and be like, "Oh, what? I was on him a week too early." Say that, but
I definitely taking the victory lap if he does something, regardless.
Taking the victory lap for what?
There's no way.
Because I was on him, for the last.
If you have a shipper with them, sure. Otherwise, there cannot be no victory lap.
If you got a shipper with him, we should tear half that poster down behind you and put a Humphrey jersey up there on one side. That'd be something if you win all the money with him tonight. I'm putting him in the captain in a couple just for hoopster. Yeah. He looks like the cheap Justin Watson type, captain that wins it all. So we'll see. But Title, I'll go to you. Again, we can just go in circles on these guys because we know what it is. If something stands out specifically, or you usually talk about this, so maybe you can hit on it here. Like, is there any rules that you're setting up with some of these guys? Just how you sort of wouldn't want some, or you think they would eat the other guy's lunch, or how you're doing it there? Because it is tough to just know much or even pick through these guys, what you want to do with them.
It's definitely tough. No, I'm not setting any rules because it's going to be a rotation and stuff on both sides. And at their prices, like 8 points and 10 points, both, like two of those could be on the optimal at 2,000, 3,000. Couple things that stood out. Kamara, the second highest receiving prop on DraftKings is absolutely, it makes sense, but that 46.5 for Sutton, 37.5 for Kamara 35.5 for Bub Means.
Ville is 37.5.
37.5 for Kamara, the second highest on the slate.
I think that's light. We'll see how it goes, but those checkdowns are going to be like 5 or 6 a piece, and whatever he runs them for. So it's like
4.5 catches, -150 on the over. So yeah, to your point,
-150. There you go. So that's like 5 catches.
Yeah.
If he's catching them 5, 6, he's got to do something with one of them. I thought it would be a little bit higher than 37.5. But what's his rushing prop?
His rushing prop is I hate how they do that. Like rushing, they changed it. Hold on, 67.5.
That is wild, though, with the Kamara receiving so because that's typically where he's at with Olave and Shaheed in the lineup, right? I mean, that's the range where he typically resides.
That's what I was thinking of. Again, I was just going my concept from earlier. Maybe it's because I thought that, yet no one else probably thinks that. I thought for sure that there could be a spot tonight where we not only see the 8 type of checkdowns, if it's -150 to almost 5 catches, and then on top of it, it just seems like you said, for Bub Means, Cedric Wilson, Mason Tipton, Juwan John. There's no anything. Like there's no here tonight. I don't know. That one just seems interesting to me. So sorry, go ahead, Title.
I like that. I
love when we get Tambo sports betting advice.
Yeah, me too. It's so rare. I'm excited.
Me too.
Who was the one that had a sports bet last time that they thought, or you did? Who? Buffalo.
Bills in the over.
Even without Cook. Yeah, that was a winner. Another thing, you got me on the rushing prop.
Yeah,
that's really made like McLaughlin 19.5, estimate 15.5. So all that talk about estimate getting a little more. I mean, he still didn't get many snaps last week. McLaughlin went down. I think that only makes me like Javonte even more than I already did, which I did like. But yeah, back to the receivers. I think I just really want to play the top 3 on both because like Hoops guy Lil Jordan, he went to wide receiver 4 last game and damn near wide receiver 5.
Shit, man.
He wants to laugh at you. Got to call it Hoops guy.
What does he got to do to retain his spot? Like,
yeah, I mean, no. That finally Sean Payton knows what he's doing and benching this clown because he stinks. I mean, so Troy Franklin had the second most snaps. Devon Ville third. Pretty big gap. Marvin Mims, if I was to take a shot on Equanimeous St. Brown, assuming he gets called up on the Saints side, Little Jordan Humphrey and Marvin Mims, I think I would take a shot on Mims, and it's because his shots are all just go routes, like Scantling. He missed, or Bo Nix missed him just briefly, or by a little bit, like a 60-yard bomb last week. And if anyone catches a 60-yard bomb in this game, I would feel very, very confident they're on the winner. So, again, it's more, the more teams you play, you can add them in. But it's clearly on the top 3 receivers on both sides for me. Sutton, Ville, Franklin. That is what we've seen last week. I'm going to trust that's the case. Humphrey got 19 snaps, Mims 17. So, again, they can do something. Mims is more way downfield. I don't mind taking a shot on him. Bub Means, Cedric Wilson, Mason Tipton feels like the clear 3 receivers and 3 receiver sets. And don't forget, Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau. They will go 12 personnel too. You won't always see 3 receivers, which is the reason I don't love Equanimeous St. Brown today. So mainly just the top 3 on both sides.
Landon calling your ass right out. Hoop knows. Yeah, probably. Well. Hoop's got a Landon over there, but this guy said ship it donation. Put Mims in your lineup.
I mean, he's right 99% of the time. But when you aren't right and he catches that bomb, you can win all the cheese. So that's the thought process behind it.
Happy belated to our guy Steven Neighbors. Also won the draw. He won the merchandise draw on X the other day, and then he's looking out for our guy Hoop. He knows we're getting on him about the Lil Jordan Humphrey stuff. He's switching the topic for you to lawn cutting, just so you don't feel as bad.
Now we're back on track. That's all we do. Some lawn care conversations to move past the Lil Jordan combos a little quicker.
I'm going to move past most things, but I didn't want to move past this one. It was, 2 ways this can go, and I did want to talk about this because I like this, just a theory that came up, but definitely can play Kamara or Rattler up top and just put the Denver D against them. That's certainly possible in a game like this, especially. But I also think it's somewhat interesting now going back to the Javonte Williams stuff, where he is the leverage on Bo Nix. They're the favorite. It's the best running matchup. He's the leverage on Kamara. On the opposite side, he's way less. He's only 13-2 versus Kamara's 17-7. You can still get Kamara into the flex, and then you can still play the Denver D against that. I think it was Landon who brought that up earlier. So I think, flipping that around, but I definitely have a lot more interest in that one as the show's gone on, just for all the reasons, the game theory of it all. So I certainly like that leverage play there. And Hoop, you can comment on that, or you can take us to tight end or both. That's where we're going next.
Yeah, definitely interested in some of these tight ends. Both guys on the Saints, although the Juwan Johnson thing, what is he, 6,800. I know pricing doesn't matter, but I just still, like, it just doesn't seem right. Like, it seems like it should be like 4,500 or something, but I get it with all these guys out. Definitely in play. I kind of like Moreau a little bit better. It just seems like he is always there in the red zone. Touchdown upside 2,800, and in this game at this price point, like if he finds the end zone, I think you probably need him. So very interested in Moreau, and then Kroll at 1K. Pretty solid games. He's kind of been the main dude the last 2 weeks. 4 targets last week, which isn't a huge number, but at 1,000, getting 4 targets, like, I'll definitely take that. So Johnson, Moreau, Kroll. I like Moreau, probably my favorite when you factor in the price tag.
Yeah, Moreau, that was brought up earlier, and I thought 2 for 54 even just last game. So plus he's got a couple touchdowns on the season, so I think he's $4K less. Again, price doesn't matter, but it's also the factor of salary usage doesn't matter. So if you have your best lineup maxed out with Juwan Johnson, that's a prime example where you can just take Juwan Johnson out, play him. So if you are setting a minimum tonight, if your maximum's 50 and that's what you want your maximum to be, it's up to you what you put it at. But I'm saying if you're going to the standard 50K max, you could easily put 46 as your min. I would go even lower. I'm just saying, my point being, that's an example of how you figure out, well, how low would you go? There's a prime example. I would just swap out Juwan, play Moreau, 1 game sample. He can definitely beat him. It's one of those things. Title, I'll go to you. Tight end.
I like Juwan Johnson. I'll be overspending there. Kroll would be my second. The props just on Foster, 10.5 receiving yards and plus 650 to score is really, really gross. Juwan's second highest pass catcher. He'd be third if you're counting Kamara, but in receiving yards, he's ahead of Tipton. He's ahead of Cedric Wilson. Plus 360 to score is actually one of the better on the slate. Big body, good after the catch. We've seen him break stuff, so I'll be playing probably overweight Juwan flex, mainly because that sticker shock when you do look at that price tag, especially in a gross game like this when I don't think salary means too much. By far my favorite tight end. That Lucas Kroll do too. I'll be playing a little of him as well. But
I like the Kroll one. The one thing about Juwan, at least what I'm seeing right now, I mean, we'll see as we get closer to game time, but you are paying up. But I don't know if we're paying up for probability, because I'm still seeing his ownership look pretty solid in the flex. It would almost be, it seems like at least that it would almost be much riskier, but it would almost be better to go all the way and put him up top. We didn't talk a lot about him earlier, but just mentioning it now, I do see ownership in the flex. I also think that we've talked a lot this season about playing these balanced captains. If you're paying up 16-2 for Sutton, can't be that much worse to pay 10-2 for Johnson. Like, he's $6,000 less. So again, who knows what this game actually shakes out like, but just an example system there where you could set it up that way as well. So I got nothing else to really add at tight end. Title will stay with you. Kickers, D, the Will Lutz revenge game was brought up earlier, but any thoughts here on kickers and Ds?
I think they're all good plays. I mean, it's pretty clear the defenses, like, obviously Denver's missing Surtain, but you get a backup QB and Rattler against a beat-up O-line. And beat up everything. They got no receivers. They got their backup QB, just a huge broken team. And then the Saints side, I mean, Bo Nix can obviously make a ton of mistakes too. We will see Broncos D be higher than Saints for the reasons I just said. Rightfully so, but I don't know, 25% roughly. Always like the kickers. I know Hoop always likes the kickers. The problem is, I guess it's not necessarily a problem. They'll probably be lower owned than the defenses, but can the quarterbacks move the ball enough to get them in field goal range? But then to make a good point for them, their backup quarterback and Rattler, Bo Nix, a bottom 15 quarterback. If they can't convert in the red zone, there will be a lot more field goal opportunities. And I don't see these coaches going for like 4th and 3s very often if they do get down there, because I think points will be important. So I like all of them, kickers and defenses for sure.
6-3, 6-2, a touchdown and a safety final score. But give us your game score. What do you got? Tell us who wins and what the score is. Let's roll with it there. I think it was 37.5. Last I looked was the total on this one. So just get 37 now. Give us your final score for this one with the winner. The Broncos up to 3-point favorites. Now I think they started at 1 or 1.5 and then went up from there. So what's this one?
Oh, my guy Danny, I got to bring him up always. I mean, we got the big matchup this week, Lions versus Vikings. And man, the one thing that is super tilting though, and I know they don't start doing the flex stuff until later in the season, but we have like shitty primetime games this week. We have Lions and Vikings at 1, and then 1 Eastern, then 49ers and Chiefs at like 4 p.m. Eastern. Imagine if those are the primetime games this week. Be so excited. I know they don't want to start flexing too early, but man, we got
that's the schedule stuff. Like the schedule master builds out. They did actually flex the game this upcoming week, but it was just a morning to afternoon game versus it didn't really mean anything. So
and don't you like 10% Jefferson instead of 85% Jefferson? Main slate versus showdown?
No, I mean, it is crazy. We'll definitely hit on it Sunday, but like no one wants to play guys like Jefferson.
I don't know if it'd be 10% this week.
This week it could be different, but I agree. I'm making an agreement. I've apologized to Danny every single show because I shit on his Vikings week 1 because I thought they were going to suck. They appear to be very good. We face off this week. The apologies are done. We're boys, and hopefully we're meeting up in the NFC Championship game.
Do we have another London game this week? Pats and Jets?
Yes.
Yeah, Jake's had to stay over the week.
They should stay there. They should stay there forever, man. Like that team is cheeks.
Our guy Jason got a good one. You don't want to see more Jets hoop? That's so true. We've seen a lot of them, so we'll see. But no super takes here. Title, did you have anything to add?
I said my kicker D, and you guys already know what Hoop says, so I guess
I got
what's
Tambo's
takes?
Yeah, nothing. I think you do see. I'll just say, real quick. I do think you probably see increased ownership for the defenses because of this game. Kickers, I'm fine with. It's indoors in the dome. So, yeah, I'm good with whatever I get at kicker or defense. And, again, it could be one of those crazy slates where if a kicker scores 20, like there's a chance that that's what you need up top. I mean, I'm not saying I'm playing kicker captain, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like if someone goes out and gets 20 at the kicker position, it's definitely in the realm of possibilities where that is the optimal captain. Am I doing it? I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised on a slate like this.
This is my favorite score of them all. Everyone likes the under. I just don't. I don't know. We'll see. We've seen crazier things. That's what people think is going to happen, but I certainly think we could see it pop up there with the O-line issues alone of like the scrambling and all that stuff that you can see on that side. Still having Kamara in there. I mean, he can have a big game. The other stuff, Bo Nix has shown to be able to put up some points. I think there's definitely a possibility we get one of those ugly games, island games that people think is going to be ugly, but turns out just to be a little bit more scoring than what you might think. So
I hope you're right.
Yeah, I hope it makes it a little better to watch. But yeah, the setup is there. So sorry, Tyler, any final thoughts on the slate? Anything else before Hoop goes to FanDuel?
Nope. I think I'm going to be condensed at captain, and my player pool relatively will be pretty condensed. Like I don't see myself getting to the Equinamia St. Browns as much. The Lil Jordans, probably not even names unless I'm playing like 75 teams. He would be the one. But I think how we covered it, like it's pretty condensed, and you can leave a boatload of salary.
Yeah, now we're getting these bets in there. Wow. I don't have any betting advice on that. This is your boy Danny's on this one though. Hoops, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, you can keep that up. I mean, it's a good time point, and really, it's the only thing we really need to talk about on FanDuel because it's the same shit. I mean, it's all those cheap dudes are going to be in play. They're all underpriced. You can leave salary on the table. I think the MVP is even more condensed. It's going to be Kamara, Nix, Radler. And then anything you do out of those three is going to be different, whether it's Sutton. My next preference would probably be Javonte Williams. I mean, yes, he's going to be owned up there, but it's going to be substantially lower than the quarterbacks in Kamara. So I think like Javonte Williams up top makes sense. A couple touchdowns for him, and he's probably the optimal MVP. But everyone else is super cheap. I mean, Bub Memes is 8,500. We got Tipton 65. You're gonna be able to do whatever the hell you want because we have so many cheap guys there. So no real talking points that are different than what we discussed over on the DK side.
Title, if you want to add anything, I just will say like Kamara has to be even higher owned over on FanDuel. We've got him up there, and I agree. Like I just think that's going to be the setup. He's 16,000. Bo Nix is 15. So again, and Rattler's 14.5 for $1,500 more, 1,000 more. People are just getting to Kamara and just running it and hoping that, he's good to go. And so I get it. And he's going to be owned on DraftKings too. Like we talked about off the top, the most up top that we maybe even the most we've seen all season. Cause the way it shakes out with having all those values and stuff. And I get it, but I think that, anything you want to add on FanDuel, you can chime in, but I think that's definitely what I see.
Yeah, hoop cut. I mean, it's what do you want to do with Kamara? Do you want to fully lock him? Do you want to fully fade? Do you want to go with the field? DraftKings is just a billion times better showdown product than FanDuel. Like,
I would just fade on FanDuel and give them the money, give everybody the money as a donation if I lose. Like, I just don't even want to play them on there. I'm definitely not playing Kamara on FanDuel MVP, and I don't even care. I just don't care. Like, it's just not happening.
Yeah, because
different.
He gets there, you'll be splitting with a lot of people. I'm with you. I'm with you, Tambo.
Yeah, it just I know people say, isn't it the same on? It's not, though. It's just not. You can still see these captains on DraftKings get there with like a $200 guy, a $400 guy. There's so many different combinations that you can do it differently because of the system versus on FanDuel. It's just tricky where it's like someone always has it. We've seen slates on FanDuel this season where it's $686 for a 100K prize, and the maxers can lose money while finding a winner. Like, that's just nuts to me. Shouldn't be a thing. Nick brought this up. We actually hit on this earlier, Nick, not the stat. So thank you for the tidbit. That's cool to see. Just 0 for 7 scoring these touchdowns. But again, sample size and the fact, like we said, he might just get 8 dump offs for 50 and still be needed on this slate. And it's not because of, just him and the price and all that. It's the other guys on the slate. So I definitely think that's something to remember and keep in mind as well. Hoop, anything else you want to talk about just before we get out of here?
Nothing really in regards to the slate. Obviously, get on over SHIPITNation.com. Is NHL 15 still active?
Even better, actually.
All right. Perfect.
I'll bring it up
Perfect
here.
Segue. Go ahead.
NBA 15, because it's coming back. What is it, Tuesday? That it's coming back. So just Tuesday. You go ahead. Just that's the code we're using now.
Yeah, and for NBA, our guy Rio is heading up the product. I mean, obviously, if you saw any of our tweets, dude is very sharp. Goes into the NHL streets on, what was it, Tuesday night, Monday night, whatever night they had the big contest. Goes in there and uses our guy Big Nade's content that was up at SHIPITNation.com and wins himself $100,000 casually. And then he's going to stroll right into NBA season and lead our product for that. I mean, the guy is very, very sharp. So we're looking forward to NBA getting started. Any of our packages, you can use that NBA 15 code, get 15% off your package. Obviously recommend the all access. You get all the sports that are listed up there plus more. Get in our Discord. Great time to join the nation.
Yeah, Rio, username Hebrew Cheetah. By the way, the H stands for hospitality. The guy's just an absolute stud. Great person, great DFS player. I was just with him at the MLB Live final. When he came into SHIPIT Nation, he was crushing the MMA streets, just as a DFS player. We brought him on to do some NBA stuff. He was at the MLB Live final. If I'm taking anything away, Tyler, you can chime in. He just won NHL the other night. He won 100 and something K to start the season in NFL in Showdown. Remember the name if you don't know it already. The guy's an absolute crusher. Love to have him on the team. Excellent dude. Just works his ass off, and the people in the Discord love him. He's always in there helping. Last year, he was doing NBA Showdown 6 nights a week, and then he was throwing a bonus core in on the 7th. So got to give him his credit. Shout out to Nades. Rio gave him his flowers, putting up all that good content, taking care of stuff. I mean, it's just been awesome over at the Nation. If you guys aren't a part of it, you can go over and check it out. Use the code. If you don't want to join right now, that's fine. We got all these free shows, but just put your email in, get the free course, get the free education course. You can see what we're really all about and see that we mean business when we're talking about, not just Bub means business. SHIPIT Nation means business too. Title, anything you want to add before we get out, man?
Yeah, there's just really no better time to join. You look at it. NFL's going, PGA swing season's going, DGen doing the show yesterday, Stone, all the content's still there. MLB, we still got 2 more series, 2-gamer today. Showdown content BJ's been doing, that's still going. MMA this week is always going. College football is going. NASCAR is going. NBA will be going on Tuesday. If you're a DFS fan, if you're a DFS player, there is no better time. There's all the money to make. There's also all the money to lose, which is why you definitely have to keep good bankroll management. But one thing you miss with Rio, NBA is his main sport, even though he crushes it all back-to-back years. He has got to the live final with multiple seats last year as well. So no one better in the business than our man Rio. Yeah, love to see it. And if you guys want to brush up on your NBA stuff, we might have to get a revamp here. We'll get Rio in the mix on the next one, and I'll get him involved too. But like I said, he was doing the Showdown stuff, but he's also doing everything else, heading up the whole project. So just to note, we do have the NBA course. If you're a member already, it's included for free. And if you want to sign up, you do get access. If you do all access, you get access to the NFL course, the PGA, MLB, MMA, NBA, and we got the NHL one just around the corner. That's going to do it for this one, though, guys. We appreciate everybody. Thank you for watching. Hit the like on the way out. Make sure to subscribe to the Mayo Media Network. For Hoop, for Title, and for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it!